Hello, my name is Daniel Tyrone of Daniel Tyrone Photography.
And I'm Sherri Roberts with the Unintentional Cougar.
And welcome to our YouTube channel, My Life Uncut. So we're going to get right into it. So I'm aware of your brand, the Unintentional Cougar. I think it's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about the creation of it?
Yeah, so it all came about, I was talking to my brother one day and just telling him how my life had turned out so differently than I expected. I was married for about 20 years and I had 6 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooled. And as our marriage started falling apart, I started kind of resurrecting my journalism degree and those skills, and I was able to get a job working for a plastic surgeon as his director of marketing, and it was just such a major life change for me. And all of a sudden I was dating again, and when I was talking to my brother, I said, you know, I had all these younger guys approaching me to date me, ask me out, and I was just surprised. And I said I became an unintentional cougar. So he, just remarked, that's really an interesting story. And it just kind of got the wheels turning in my head because I hadn't shared my story with hardly anybody, just a very few close friends. It was just something that I just, it was just a lot of, there was pain associated with the story. I didn't want to have to rehash that. Right. And I thought maybe people wouldn't take me seriously in the workforce if they knew the story. So I just kept it quiet. And as I noticed, as people learned more about my story, they would often remark about how it inspired them. And so I just decided to embrace it and share it. And I trademarked the name, the Unintentional Cougar.
Smart.
It always, people are always very intrigued when they hear the name. They want to know the story behind it. So that's in a nutshell what it's about.
Gotcha. So we met. It's a little bit fascinating too. So you chime in, but I'll start the story.
Okay.
So I'm in one of my mentors who actually got me involved in photography. I was taking a class with her in studio lighting, which is, if you're a photographer, you know that studio lighting is extremely important because you can take photos in natural light, but in order to control light, you can use your studio lighting to help you out. So I thought it was essential that I take this class. So I'm sitting there in class. This is before the pandemic. I'm sitting in the class and we have like these little school type of chairs with tables, and the one next to me is empty. So the instructor starts the class and I'm thinking, man, the person right next to me is gonna lose out on a lot. So about 10 minutes into the class, you come walking in. So out of the corner of my eye, I see you and I notice you and I was like, whoa, this woman has classic looks. It was more of an artistic representation when you look at somebody and you say they have classic looks. Like George Clooney has it, Salma Hayek has it, Denzel Washington. There's people that have those classic looks that you're kind of drawn to. So on the break, I went up to you and I said, would you mind modeling for me? And you said, oh, you were a little hesitant, but you said, oh, I've never done that. I don't know if I want to do that. And I said, well, you have classic looks. We'll do something downtown Houston and I can help you. I'll help you launch your modeling career. I didn't know what your age was at that time, but I said I'd help you launch your modeling career. And that's where we kind of met and became like really close friends. And so you remember it like that, or you remember it differently?
I do. I just remember just being very flattered that you asked me, and I feel we just pretty much hit it off from the start. You were very warm and friendly, and I think as that day was a lot of fun.
Are you talking about when we went downtown?
Well, when we went downtown for that photo shoot, we were both very. I think you're learning your craft.
I was. It was early in my career, and the important thing is we went through some hurdles downtown. We had to deal with people that were homeless, managers and bars that wouldn't let us shoot in their bars. It was really a good time. I remember it vividly, and to my to your credit, you really helped me. You also helped me because I told you, because of your marketing background, I asked you, what do you think I should do in terms of my website? And you told me the website has to be clean and you've got to get it done. So I hired a web developer, but you wrote my bio because of your journalistic background. I know you graduated from Texas A&M in journalism, but because of your journalistic background, that really improved the effectiveness of my website. Because you can go to the bio and you can read basically what you wrote. What was your inspiration for that, you think?
Well, I think, as you submitted, you answered some of my questions about your background. And I think for me, I just was really intrigued as I was putting it together, just how you had gone from being a major in the Army, retiring after 30 years, and then you had an MBA, you're an accountant, how you segued from that world, which I think of as being, maybe rigid and not in a bad way, it's just the way it is, segueing into this artistic career where you're exploring your passion, photography, and really starting a new career path. You were doing it on the side at that point.
Yes,
it wasn't a full-blown career. So it helped me to get to know you, just what you had written, and just helping people to know your story and your philosophy and just kind of what sets you apart as a photographer, because you're an amazing photographer.
Thank you.
And I think, to me, it's interesting how you bring your precision and you blend that with your creative eye. And, your story is pretty fascinating too, just how you segued from that career into photography. How did that come about?
I think for me, I always wanted to be a soldier since I was a kid. My dad was in the Air Force. I had guns as a kid. I had G.I. Joes. I had tanks. Everybody knew it. So there was a period of my time in my early 20s that I decided I was going to go to boot camp, and I went to that. And I was always successful at being a soldier. So I went to my University of Texas at El Paso, went to ROTC, graduated from there, and entered and decided to be a combat soldier. I was a field artillery soldier. And I just wrote it out for there. It gave me the rigidness. It made me realize that I needed to take care of my body on a regular basis. Also, how I gravitated toward, and in the meantime, I kept myself educated on the civilian side and got an MBA early on. And I got into corporate America and just really tried to be successful. I think my experience in corporate America really set me in motion. I didn't want to really work for anybody. It was terrible going to work, and I know many people, especially in today's social climate, the worst thing you can do is not wanting to go to work. And have a passion for it. I could do numbers. I mean, that wasn't a big thing. I was really good at that. But photography reminds me, and I was trying to explain this to one of my mentors. It reminds me of looking through a scope of a weapon. Everything has to be precise. You don't get a second chance. You've got to hit your target. And so it just kind of came natural for me in that sense. It gave me the same sort of rush and feeling. Not that they're one and the same, but it did give me that same sort of feeling. So that's how I gravitated toward it. And then I've had positive people. And I think that as you go along in life, people come in our lives that help us and kind of move us on as angels and kind of gets us in the right light. And so I was laid off during the pandemic in March. And fortunately for me, financially I'm okay. But that led to me actually having a more entrepreneurial spirit so that I could create, so I could have time to think, so I could take care of my family, of course. We could spend time together kind of going over ideas or whatever. So that's how my story kind of came to be.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you do now photography-wise?
So as far as photography is concerned, I'm not a landscape photographer. I'm really not even a wedding photographer, even though I can do that and I've done it in the past. But any kind of photography that has a person in it, whether it's portrait, boudoir, swimsuit, fitness, babies, that's where I think that my particular niche is. Although I could probably do a lot of other things if I wanted to as well. So that's where I think that my talents lie, in terms of having just a person on the other side of the lens.
How did you go, so I can see how for a lot of people it's intimidating to think about making such a major life change. How did you go about acquiring the skills?
Okay, so I thought to myself, look, I have a graduate degree. It's an MBA. I graduated with honors. I'm through with school. I told myself, I had a serious conversation with myself, which I do rarely, but I had a serious conversation. And I said to myself, I'm finished with school. I'm not going back to school. I'm not going back to get a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Photography. I'm not doing that. So what's the easiest way? So I did some Google research like many other people do, and I found one of my most ardent supporters, which was my mentor. Her name is Lana Kelly. She originally got a scholarship. She's from Houston. She originally got a scholarship to go to a fine arts school in New York and get a photography degree. So I looked up her class. She had beginners classes. And as I got to know her, she emphasized that I didn't need the degree. She could teach me the technical piece, but she also advocated that I really had talent. So when you get one of the number one photographers in Houston saying you have talent, I was like blown away. So then I took every single class that she offered, workshops, excursions, everything. And then finally, one day she asked me to photo shoot her wedding, which I'd never done before. But I knew then that that's the moment that it clicked. I have talent, if a photographer asks you to do it. And I took over 900 pics, and she paid me for it, which was really cool. And I didn't have to edit them because she's a photographer. So I just turned over the raw files and I just walked away. So we'll forever be close friends. And I actually still call her and tell her to critique my pics, based on composition, lighting, editing. And she's very honest, because after that wedding, she gave me a 2-page critique. I thought I did about a C+. And she told me that she had 3 students that she really thought could be professional photographers, and I was the 3rd one. So. Okay, so I saw, we're buddies regularly, but we're also Instagram buddies, and I follow you, you follow me. It's got to be that way.
That's right.
So I saw this rap video. And usually when you think of rap videos, you think of like men like me who've got creative rhyme talent. But I saw yours. I was really intrigued. It was really good. How did that come about? What was the inspiration for that?
Okay, well, so what happened was, as I started opening up about my story a little bit, putting it out there on social media, people were asking me questions. They wanted to know more about the name, The Unintentional Cougar, how that came about, and just my story. How did I survive, divorce and going into this new career and dating, all that. So I started to write a blog, and I was going to put it on my website, and it was rhyming a little bit in parts, and I had this idea come to me. What if I did like a spoken word piece? And maybe that could be, it's different, and spoken word appeals to me. I have friends who do it. And so I started writing it in a spoken word form where there was some rhyme and there was a beat to it. And my son was actually in the other room. He's an audio engineer. And I told him my idea, and I said, I think I'm gonna find some music to put to this, like maybe some kind of beat. And so he said, okay, hey, just, give me a chance to put something together for you. So he went and started putting something together just really fast. Like he put it together in probably less than 30 minutes. It was very spontaneous. Mm-hmm. And so he set up his microphone. It took me about a weekend to write it. And he set up the microphone, and we recorded it in, I would say, about 2 takes.
Right.
I mean, we just wanted to get it done. And so we did it, and then of course I found the wonderful Joshua Allen,
our creative director,
my favorite videographer ever and producer.
Yes.
And because originally I was just going to do a simple video of myself. I was just going to set up a tripod, and I realized, like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's going to be so basic and amateurish, and I wanted it to be special with different angles. And so Daniel told me about Joshua. I reached out to Joshua, asked him if he would do it, and we did. I would say we knocked it out in like an afternoon, and he did such an amazing job. It was really a joy to work with him. But that's how it came about. And it's funny, the response. I've had friends, like, I show it to them and they laugh. They're like, that is like so hilarious, you doing a rap. And I can laugh with them because it is kind of funny. Like, obviously I'm not a rapper, a professional rapper, but I just felt like, I like spoken word, and I'm gonna just do it. I don't care if it comes across kind of silly to some people. I like it, and it's my message, and it's really my story, the unintentional cougar in a song is what it is.
So I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, first of all, and I just loved it. I didn't laugh. I was like really blown back by it. So I think that I'm gonna leave a link to that video below, so be sure you click on that link and check it out, and you'll really enjoy it. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is we have known each other maybe 2 years, maybe close to that.
Yeah, 2 years.
Very, very close. The experience that you had, and I just wanted to brush on this lightly. I know that divorce can be very, very painful. I've gone through it. But what was your motivation of kind of digging yourself up and realizing that you had this experience as a journalist and going out and finding a job? Because I remember I at least had the Army when I got divorced. So I had somewhere to go every day.
Yeah.
I had physical training. I had to train other soldiers, or I had to command other soldiers. So my life was kind of set for me, but yours wasn't, I don't think, that type of. So I wanted you to kind of expound upon how, what gave you the motivation to just pick yourself up.
Yeah, I think, there were so many unknowns. There was a lot of uncertainty surrounding it, but I knew it was something I needed to do to be economically independent. I was grateful that I at least had a journalism degree. I had those writing skills, but it was intimidating going out there in the workforce. I had no resume because I'd been at home.
Because you were married right when you got your degree, right? Right after you got your degree.
I was married, less than a year later. And so I went, pretty much from that, and it wasn't long before I had babies. So, it was intimidating, but I just, I was grateful I had the writing skills.
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking about how I could use those writing skills, and I presented it to this plastic surgeon. I was fascinated with plastic surgery and thought, maybe I could use those skills to write blogs for them and do social media. And I presented the idea, and it was, I think for me, I was working so hard to learn. I didn't have all the skills. Like, they asked me, I remember when I approached this plastic surgeon about working for him, he said, I need a brochure for this nurse I just hired. Could you put something together for me? And I was like, sure. And I'd never done a brochure in my life, but I went home that night and I started researching, and I cobbled something together so fast because I could write. I hadn't even met this woman. I didn't know anything about her. But it was just more kind of just a sample to show him what I could do. So at the time, I don't even know if this is still around, Microsoft Publisher, which was a simple program I could use, and I put together a little brochure.
That's cool.
And I did that, and I presented it to the doctor, and then I actually was hired by this group of plastic surgeons. And when I went into that job, I just felt like I had such a steep learning curve in some sense. I mean, I could write, and so writing blogs came pretty naturally to me. But, in the world of marketing now, there's so much. There's SEO or search engine optimization. And then there was advertising, and there was, all of a sudden I'm doing a newsletter for the company. I'd never done a newsletter before, but I, started reaching out to printers and learning what I needed to do. I started taking classes. I learned, how to do graphic arts layout, so I could do my own basic newsletters when I wasn't hiring a graphic artist to do it. So I think that's really the message, for me. It was to start with the skills I had. I was lucky to have a very supportive, group of surgeons who, they paid for continuing education for me to learn some of the skills that I could do to, bring more skills to the table that would actually help them. So I think that's where it started. But I think in a situation like that, there's so many things you're dealing with, because you're starting over. So you have the work aspect, but then you have like the emotional, psychological side of it, where you have, you're kind of starting over. Like
Right.
when you've been with somebody, now you have like
that.
a new identity. So you're navigating that. You're navigating dating. So, it's a lot. But I think for me, just, it's something, you find those things that build you up and encourage you, whether it's a church or, a new hobby. Gradually, I just acquired the skills that help me just, not only professionally, but just kind of navigating a new life.
Gotcha. But you're in a good place now, right?
I'm in a good place
Okay.
now, yeah.
So am I. I've got a great family, great friends, surrounded by positive people.
It's important. You need that network of support, I think. And I think that's, you don't ever want to be an island to yourself. I think we all need people, and it's a matter of finding the people who are the right group for you, that support you and encourage you. So,
And I think that's really important. I think that's where we're close friends, because we're constantly supporting each other.
yeah, definitely.
And we're pulling for each other. You always need the cheerleaders behind you. So.
Yeah, and we can call each other. I mean, we're like besties, so
Yeah,
we talk almost every day.
Yeah, we do talk almost every day.
But that's, that sounds like a little thing, but it's nice to have a friend that you can call up every day and
Right.
just say, how are you doing? How was your day? And,
Exactly. Have a happy Thanksgiving, or have a happy holidays, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to wrap it up. Be sure to click the like button, the bell notification, and subscribe to our channel. But thanks for joining us today, and have a great day.